And we have to understand also that these signs that they're making is not a joke. They definitely do relate to secret society symbolism. And it's used even in the political domain, of course. It's very interesting how they do it. It's quite a study to find out how adept these people are. Here's a book, The Duncan's Ritual. I think it's online, but you can certainly pick it up, order it online, or see these photographs, these images, to get familiar with some of this stuff so that when it crops up in advertisements and in films, or even on the political stage, by the way, you'll understand it, you'll note it. I think I had mentioned this kind of thing in that they use it in court a lot. These gestures can be used in court, or by the politicians, as I said. Signs of distress and what have you. Here's an interesting one with the Black Pope, Peter Hans Calvenbach, and immediately you see that he's using these hand symbols. That is not; those are not natural poses. Here we go. You see Yeltsin, and again, people look at these as being national poses or political poses. Nothing of the kind. We do it all the time. How many Christians, have used this symbol? Do they realize what the symbol is? That this was actually the symbol in feudal days. There's nothing to do with religion whatsoever. This was purely political. That was the sign that you made when you got on your knees in front of the feudal lord or the feudal baron in order to ask permission to do this or that or the other. Say, for instance, if you came to get permission to marry, you and your wife would have to kneel in front of the feudal lord, not the priest and not God, but the feudal lord, to be allowed to get married. As Jordan Maxwell has often said, why do you even need a license for that? Well, you do, because you're under control. You're told what to do. And the idea was that a leather rope or tether would be placed around your hands that were held together, so you were a prisoner. You were enslaving yourself. So that is actually the sign of slavery and submission that later on became known religiously. But all of this histrionics is, again, as we know, embellished. It's actually learned. It's a process. We understand that now in certain cases, like in the case of Hitler, that he was groomed, that he used the power of the voice and the power of movement. They're educated in this. It's a form of weaponry. And for those who don't know, yeah, Obama is a Freemason. It was openly admitted. Historically, we've understood that astrology is used in government circles all the time, even though it may have a sort of they present it to you in a sort of a banal way. But it's there all right. Not that there's anything wrong with astrology, but it is wrong if you're trying to control humanity by using it. And as we looked at last time, the pyramidical symbols, the solar rays, go straight back to the sign of, straight back to the signs used by Akhenaten. I mean, his most beloved signs. And I'm glad to see that now, and nowadays, people are really getting up to speed on all of this. It's good, but it's a continuing study, you see, because it doesn't just stay one way. Brand new life, new day. What's it all about? And again, the iconic symbolism, especially surrounding the father figure, the animus. Remember we talked about the master-slave relationship? Well, we buy into it as well. These individuals would have no power whatsoever if we weren't archetypally hungry, archetypally emaciated, so that we're so susceptible. And we have the primordial hill, we have the color blue for the blue degrees of Freemasonry, and the Greco-Roman architecture that is found in almost all the cities of the world. And the very idea of a round enclosure like that is hugely important. It represents the female, the protection of the ova, and also the zodiac as well, many different contexts. But when the hero or the father figure stands on that mound, he is representing himself as not only God, but the first God, the primal God, arose from a mound, a primal mound, out of the waters of the abyss in Egyptian symbolism, you see. Many of the stage sets, look at this one that I found. I think this was of the recent Oscars or something like that. Certainly a major, mega award presentation ceremony in America last year. There on the left, and on the right there is a picture of a Masonic floor, Masonic building. So, I mean, come on. There it is again. The coffin. I noticed that coffin on the symbols of in the 12th of July parades in Ireland when the Orange Lodge, would march. It's loaded with these Masonic symbols, and of course being young, like you're 13 or whatever, see the coffin and go, oh, that's cool, what's that? Why's it got a skull on it, And you kind of remember these things. Only later on to really find out what it's all about. That the coffin, the shape of it, is actually a simulacra for the Tree of Life. If you actually put that coffin, the Masonic coffin in here, and just get a picture of the Tree of Life, you'll notice that the Kabbalistic Tree of Life has that outline. So it's just a metaphor. They work this way. And the whole idea that you have to die, you see, to be reborn again, to go up the Tree of Life to find enlightenment. Interesting symbolism there. There's the sign of the Eastern Star, and the color blue for the blue degrees, the ashlar in the center. And the measurements, the dimensions of these Masonic ashlars, which just means altar, are very important. The numbers that they come to and how those numbers can be found all over the media. Such an immense subject to go into. On the left of that picture on the wall there, you see the pyramid, the winged disc, and on the left-hand side you see some serpentine symbolism, see that? And then on the right you see the rays of the sun. All based on Judite, to be more proper about it, Judite, Atonist symbolism. Now, I've mentioned in my work so many times that entire cities have been meticulously designed by these same people. You're actually sitting, in most of the cities of the world, including Gothenburg here, you are literally inside a ritual precinct that was meticulously designed based on the movement of the planets and the constellations. Not only that, but the cities themselves, including the buildings that are in those cities, are geomantically positioned, particularly around what's the 33rd parallel of the Earth, and other parallels as well, but the 33rd has been noted. A lot of symbolism has gone into that, a lot of research. I can be contacted for documents on that banks, stately homes, and even events like the assassination of John F. Kennedy, you see, and many other acts of war and violence and strange inaugurations of this and that and the other, signings of declarations happen on certain positions of the earth. We showed how important London was, and the Process Church, their headquarters was right in the centre of Mayfair, right in the centre of London. London itself having 28 boroughs, which is 28 is the lunar mansions, That's why when you go to those boroughs, as I've done, you'll notice the lunar and solar symbolism right there, but you don't pull back from the canvas and think, oh, well, what's that doing over here? Yeah, but where are you standing? If you were able to fly and you go up in the air, you'd see that, oh, this connects to this and this connects to this. Incredible stuff. And we know that this is true because we have the Kingston Zodiac, we have the Somerset Zodiac, we have the Glastonbury Zodiac that can only be noted from the air. Bona fide zodiacs that are acres long, you could never notice it from the ground. And if it wasn't so important, or if these things were not legit, then why did John Dee back in the 1600s have a fascination with the Somerset Zodiac and wanted to even buy the land on which it is? So if it's good enough for those guys, how come it's not good enough for us today to realize there's significance there? Even the earth is used magically, you see. So the secret society symbols are used by a multiplicity of politicians and theocrats and what have you, because all that stuff about politics and religion is just the front. That's just the circus, the dance macabre that's put on for us. That's the mask. Behind it is the whole occult aspect that we need to become very familiar with. So Protestant or Catholic. Now this creature, there's proof of this. Like we said, look, note the contradictions. On paper, this arch-Protestant, he actually went and sold his own cable channel. That's not a program, by the way, that's a cable channel to Rupert Murdoch, who is technically on the opposite side of the political spectrum as Robertson and his gang. So on paper, he's always mouthing off vehemently against the opposition and how debauched they are, but behind the scenes they're doing deals, huge billion-dollar deals. There's so many examples of this kind of collusion going on. And then it's just insane how it is that the kind of people that they put forward, you know, in modern times. I mean, to even think that this guy is involved with secret societies or a Mason. If I was a Mason and he joined, I'd leave. They're so bad, I'd want to leave Masonry. If a creature like that said, I want to join. You want somebody like that, higher rank than you? The Sutherlands are an interesting family to look into, not only the movies they've made, but their history. They go back to the Puritans, have a very interesting history.